70 plus supplies plus Smash Face+Military Marriage. People are beautiful and not kind-hearted. If they don't accept it, it's a dry female lead versus an eagle who appears first, and a waist is better at rolling out a handsome male lead than a face. As soon as she opened her eyes, Qu Qingyao walked into the 1970s, transforming from a double-degree female doctoral student to a deliberately swapped fake daughter. Are you going to get married at the beginning, or are you getting married to an old man with 18 offspring in 4 marriages? She got married, damn it. Dad's family is too top-notch. Then don't do it. First hit someone, then scrape money, and finally report it, but still get a decent space. Do you have malicious connections when looking for a job? Just right. You keep me in your heart, and I'll hang you directly on the tree. Who else can join with full marks? Planting small Camellia oleifera and digging small gold mines, Qu Qingyao was counting her bills while someone invited her to enter the research institute. Let's see how Qu Qingyao can handle both career and love, and become a big winner in life. Chapter 1. Crossing the 1970s. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Reading tips. 1. Do not bring your brain or other valuable items to watch. 2. If it is brainless and does not conform to reality, you can curse the article. Don't curse the author, please. Qu Qingyao was burning all over, and in a daze, he heard someone talking outside. No, 800 is not enough, at least 1200. Such a beautiful daughter.In.Law who married into the family has a lot of face, and she can also do laundry and cook. It's not a loss at all. Besides, do you think the children born in the future will be inferior to what Yao Yao looks like? Alright. Don't worry, our family is far away and we can take good care of those 18 children. Qu Qingyao twisted his eyebrows slightly, burning with no strength, struggling to digest the unfamiliar memories in his mind. Qu Qingyao traveled through the 1970s and became a fake daughter who stole dragons and turned phoenixes. 18 years ago, the parents of the original owner, who had gone crazy thinking about their son, secretly exchanged their own daughter for someone else's son in the hospital. Half a month ago, the incident broke out and the original owner returned home disheartened. The Chu family, who had been separated from their biological son for 18 years, was furious. After much thought, they asked the original owner's parents for a compensation of 1,000 yuan. If they don't compensate, they will be reported to the public security and arrested. When the original owner's parents heard that they were going to pay 1,000 yuan, they immediately fried the pot. They feel that although they have changed children, which one is not to raise? Moreover, the son of the Chu family has not suffered much in his own home. He can exchange it for money, which is like extortion. But they didn't count on this matter and were scared to death by the possibility of going to jail, so they directly attributed this account to the original owner. What's the difference between a child who hasn't been raised by their side and not being close to them? Once they recognize them, their family will start a lawsuit like this. The original owner hasn't had a good face in the past half-month since he returned. The original owner felt suffocated and went out to breathe, but was unexpectedly taken in by the pig slayer in the slaughterhouse, willing to pay a high dowry to marry her. Being troubled by 1,000 yuan, a big injustice suddenly arrived. The original owner's parents were afraid that the pig killer would back out, so they immediately agreed to marry their daughter. The pig slayer in that slaughterhouse is old and doesn't take a shower. There are 18 children in the family who are very noisy, and when they get married, they become stepmothers without pain. The original owner caused a commotion upon learning about this matter, and in a state of anxiety and anger, he developed a high fever that lasted for 2 days. The original owner's parents didn't care, so the original owner disappeared. Qu Qingyao let out a sigh in his heart. She finally won 30 million yuan in the lottery, and just as she cashed in the prize, she didn't have time to make wild purchases, so she was gone. Now her resentment can be said to be greater than a ghost. The original owner's parents were outside without hesitation discussing the sale of their daughter with the pig killer, which shows what kind of heart they had. If it weren't for my body being as soft as noodles now, I wouldn't have rushed out to take a brick and shine it on their heads all by myself. For now, let's go to sleep and nourish our spirits. Qu Qingyao closed his eyes and fell asleep again with the high fever in his body. In no time, the room door was pushed open. Luo Qiuxia walked ahead with a happy expression on her face, while Zhou Desheng was also in a good mood. It seemed that the dowry had been agreed upon. How long has it been? Why haven't we woken up yet? Our family doesn't have such poor health, let's pretend. Luo Qiuxia reached out to touch Qu Qingyao's forehead and let out a sigh. It's as hot as the bottom of a pot, but don't lie in bed and can't get up on the day of your wedding. They want to marry her because she looks beautiful. If they don't want her anymore, what should they do? Then go to the hospital and prescribe some medicine for her. Zhou Desheng was also worried that she might be too scared to sell for a good price, and then added, a cheaper one will do. After taking cheap medicine, Qu Qingyao woke up the next day and recovered 7 or 8 points from his illness. Qu Qingyao stood up and surveyed the room, which was for his former son. It was 5 or 6 square meters in size, with a desk against the wall and a wardrobe next to it. Being able to have a separate room, the original owner's parents treated their son well. No matter how good it is, the Qu family cannot be better. After all, the Zhou family is just an ordinary family in the city, and the Qu family's parents are one engineer and one workshop director. When I was still at the Qu family, the original owner had 4 or 5 new clothes every year. Just Blaji could fit a full half of the wardrobe, and wearing small leather shoes for a week would not duplicate them. The original owner had seen foreign snacks from snacks to large ones. Brag, image source network, intrusion deletion, the clothes in the wardrobe and the Shanghai women, cream, and snow cream placed on the desk that serves as a temporary dressing table were brought by the original owner when they returned. On the other hand, if my biological son who was replaced still hasn't finished elementary school, who would feel good about it? No wonder the Qu family insisted on compensation, almost angering their cheap parents. For this 1,000 yuan, before breakfast could be finished, Luo Qiuxia opened her mouth to her daughter. Yao Yao, you should get married. It's not that mom doesn't hurt you, it's just that your foster parents are too hard-hearted. They said our family won't give us 1,000 yuan and we'll have to go to jail with your dad. Isn't this forcing us to die? Yes, we swapped you with their child, but we raised both of them. After all these years, being a dog should have had feelings, right? They were so lucky. They kicked you out as soon as they found out you weren't biological. My poor child, you have a hard time. After all, we are still close. Although you are not by our side these years, your father and I have been thinking about you in our hearts. Thinking about you at night makes us unable to sleep. Mom's eyes are not good now, and it's only after so many years of thinking about you that we cry like this. As Luo Qiuxia spoke, she pounded her heart with her hand, not believing that her daughter didn't feel sorry. Qu Qingyao scooped a chopstick of pickled vegetables into the bowl and nodded, saying, you can see that you really miss me. My biological daughter doesn't want someone else's son, and as soon as she got home, she was busy selling me for a dowry. She's still married to an old man from a 4th marriage with 18 offspring. This statement was like a knife piercing into the heart of the person in question, causing embarrassment on the faces of Luo Qiuxia and Zhou Desheng. After all, they deliberately replaced the 2 children back then. But the 2 of them feel that they just want a son to retire in the future. What's wrong? Zhou Desheng lit a cigarette and started smoking. Anyway, since you've all come back, it's time for you to make a contribution to your family now. The conditions of a pig slayer are not bad. You have to get married if you don't, and you'll get married in 3 days. That's it. These couple, after you finish singing, I will appear on stage. Their faces are really annoying. Qu Qingyao took another sip of sweet potato noodle porridge and remained silent. If you don't speak, then you agree. Luo Qiuxia and Zhou Desheng didn't expect things to go so smoothly this time, and they breathed a sigh of relief in their hearts. They have all decided that if they want to make a scene like last time, they will tie up the people and sneak around to find a knight to send them to the pig killer. Now that they are so obedient, things will be much easier to handle. Mrs. Zhou, who had been silent on the side, finally smiled. Is that right? A girl should listen to her family and marry whoever she wants. When you get married, just like your sisters, it's okay to endure some hardships on your own. You should pay more attention to your parents' family and bring back all the delicious food. Your parents will live well, and then someone will support you in the future. Chapter 2. Nauseating Parents. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qu Qingyao went in one ear and out the other, eating breakfast on his own and even taking some time to think about the situation at the Zhou family. In addition to her, the Zhou family also has 5 daughters who have already been married. For each daughter who gets married, the Zhou family fiercely demands a dowry. Zhou Desheng and Luo Qiuxia are both model workers at a furniture factory, temporary workers in the logistics of a textile factory, and even old Lady Zhou has a job. They have a strong sense of smell and work as temporary workers sweeping toilets on the streets. This kind of family is crying and shouting that they can't afford to pay 1,000 yuan, purely because they don't want to take it. According to their urination habits, their last son was taken back by someone, so this family will definitely go from where to pick up another one to raise. Qu Qingyao was not at all wrong in his thinking. Yesterday, Mrs. Zhou told Zhou Desheng and his wife that a relative from the countryside came and said there was a boy who would be sold at 50. Bringing it back and raising it is just enough to provide them with retirement. The pig slayer is willing to offer a dowry of 1,200 yuan to pay off the money of the Qu family. After buying a boy, there will still be a net of 150 yuan left, which is a good deal. Mrs. Zhou became more and more enthusiastic as she spoke. Although your family didn't support you, if it weren't for us, would you be able to live a good life at the Qu family for 18 years? You have to be grateful. In the future, we will send more meat and food to our homes. The pig slayer will spend less on his own salary. You are still young, so it's okay to endure more hardship. Grandma and your parents are getting older, and we live one less day. We should be more filial and respectful to each other. Chatting around, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Qu Qingyao ate 70% full, put down the dishes and stood up. Before the Zhou family could react, she flipped the table over. With a loud bang. Dishes, chopsticks, bowls, and a cold water kettle all fell to the ground with a crackling sound, causing them to fall into thin pieces. You're crazy. Old Lady Zhou was drenched in water and shouted brighter than a crowing rooster. Fortunately, it's not hot water. If hot water doesn't scorch oneself to death. Damn girl, you scumbag. You were fine just now, but you suddenly had a convulsion. Luo Qiuxia screamed, so many things are all broken, how much money do you need to spend to buy them again? Zhou Desheng opened his mouth and breathed air. Just now, he was about to eat peanuts when he was so scared that his chopsticks didn't catch him and fell to the ground, rolling out a long way. The fire suddenly came up, the uncivilized girl. Last time she just talked back, but this time she just lifted the table. If she didn't give it a good lesson, she would just throw her chopsticks and go get a chicken feather duster. But before he could move, Qu Qingyao rolled up his sleeves, picked up a chair, and smashed it over. Ah! The chair stirred up a gust of wind in the air and slammed onto Zhou Desheng's waist. Zhou Desheng felt pain and instantly felt like a bone was broken. He stumbled forward a few steps and threw himself directly onto the ground. His waist. Since I've all come back, it's time for me to make a contribution to this family. I see your waist is quite stiff. You don't need to thank me for activating your meridians and muscles. I hate dad-style men the most in this life. Standing tall in front of her, Qu Qingyao coldly threw the chair onto the ground and patched up his feet. Oh my waist is broken. Stop it, stop it. Damn you, you've turned the tide. Stop it now. Watching her son lying motionless on the ground, old Lady Zhou slapped her and jumped in excitement. Qu Qingyao turned around and gave her a big mouth, slapping old Lady Zhou a few times before finally lying on the ground shoulder to shoulder with his big brother. Open your mouth and spit out a bloody golden tooth. You, dare you hit me? Old Lady Zhou couldn't believe it, and was more shocked. This girl looked like a willow, with such great strength. Qu Qingyao didn't talk nonsense. He went up and gave another big slap, pinching old Lady Zhou's mouth and forcefully breaking off all the remaining gold inlaid teeth. Mrs. Zhou suddenly turned into an old lady with a flat mouth. If I hit you, I'll hit you. There's nothing I dare not do. You're getting old, you'll have to die sooner or later. I'm still young and can't endure hardship or anger. What kind of PUA is she doing? If you want to die, it's better to be frank. Qu Qingyao spat his saliva on old Lady Zhou's head in disgust. These two are beaten down, there's still one over there. My own man and my wife have never fought together before, and Luo Qiuxia felt like a formidable enemy, wanting to run away. As a result, I stepped on the debris on the ground and fell to the ground with a thud. Without time to get up, Luo Qiuxia crawled forward with both hands, finally reaching the door. However, with a frightened expression, she was dragged back by Qu Qingyao's legs. Pop 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 pop. Qu Qingyao didn't let go of a single one and grabbed Luo Qiuxia's hair, shining the soles of his shoes on his mouth and pulling upwards. Pick up the chopsticks on the ground with ease, press and hold the upper and lower lip separately, and clamp them down with force. Don't you know how to speak? Let you speak. Luo Qiuxia wept in pain and struggled fiercely, being mercilessly suppressed by Qu Qingyao. When it's released, 2 sausages come out of my mouth. Although you haven't raised me, you have me in your heart, and your eyes just want me to cry like this. Although I hit you, it's because I have you in my heart. I have so much strength, just to hit you. Emotional cards, emotions haven't even come to her to play cards yet. With sweet words, she should feel comfortable with her mouth now. The whole room was full of people. Oh my, help me over there. Qu Qingyao was feeling comfortable all over. The original owner was born strong enough to resist hitting others. That's because she has a good temper, but she's different. Qu Qingyao doesn't know how to right wronged in this lifetime. You little beast, what do you want to do? Old Lady Zhou saw Qu Qingyao pick up the feather duster again and retreated in fear. In her lifetime, she cursed the world and the earth, and when she was in a bad mood, even dogs passing by would be scolded by her. She never imagined that there would be a day when she was old and beaten. Hitting her is still a junior. Old Lady Zhou was so angry that she couldn't help but feel the urge to kill her. Ah. Help, is there anyone? Help, I killed someone. Oh, stop hitting me again will kill me. Qu Qingyao held a chicken feather duster and slapped the Zhou family with a swish. Let you change children and sell your daughters. I don't want my own flesh and blood, I want to raise someone else's son. When I deliberately replaced my daughter, I didn't expect that one day I would marry a pig killer. I would beat you so hard that you wouldn't even need a shovel to bury yourself in the grave, and the ashes would be scattered everywhere. I don't have money to work as a laborer. Dare to exchange me for a dowry. Auntie, I see you all think you have a long life. Enough of the good days. If we don't wake you up, you won't know the saying evil people still grind evil people. Scream, scream, all the blessings are gone for you. Your chin is wrapped in your upper teeth, so hold it back for me. Just say, draw 10 times. Qu Qingyao poisoned his hands and specifically hit his arms and legs. There was little meat here, and the beating was painful. Through his clothes, he forcefully tore a layer of skin. The Zhou family had never experienced such hardship, rolling on the ground in pain without daring to shout out, afraid that Qu Qingyao would beat them even harder if he was unhappy. The Zhou family all regret it now. If I had known that one day, what kind of child would have changed back then? Qu Qingyao should have strangled her to death from birth, so as not to have today. Qu Qingyao doesn't care what they're thinking in their hearts. When they're tired, they kick with their feet, when they're tired, they hit with their hands, and when they don't have much strength, they order 3 people to team up and slap each other in pairs. At the end, the faces of the last 3 people were all red and swollen, shining brightly, like 3 honey old dogs. Friendly reminder again. This article is mindless, really mindless, and its main theme is a pleasure. Please do not carry valuable items such as brains while reading the article. Chapter 3. Hospital Rescue. You are listening at novel full.audio. The sound of slapping repeatedly echoed in the room. Qu Qingyao didn't say stop, the Zhou family didn't dare to stop. You slap me and I slap you, feeling that each other's attack was heavy, retaliatively slapping harder and harder. Mrs. Wang passed by the door and heard a sound inside. She leaned her ears against the door to see what was happening. Unexpectedly, the door opened a crack and startled Aunt Wang. Sneaking through the crack and looking inside, I was startled again. The couple of the Zhou family and my mother are fighting each other. You slap me and I slap you, bleeding from the fight and not stopping. Is the Zhou family crazy? It's not possible, crazy people can hit people recklessly, but they still get caught. Aunt Wang quickly lifted the bamboo basket on her hand and slipped away with a gust of wind. Before slipping away, she gently closed the door. Qu Qingyao, who was standing in the blind spot of his line of sight, had already known that someone was coming outside and deliberately ignored it. At this point, the Zhou family had already beaten their heads. You tore me apart and even picked up the guy, using the legs of the scattered stool to smash the other person's head. Mrs. Wang, who was running down the stairs in a hurry, couldn't even catch her breath and ran towards the crowded place. Guess what I saw from upstairs just now? Oh, Wang Dazue, when you're free today, did you come to gossip again? Go on, what nonsense, do you guys listen or not? Listen, why don't you listen? Tell me, you hurry up and tell me. Aunt Wang cleared her throat and poked her head into the crowd. I just passed by the Zhou family and saw that they are old and young. They have gone crazy. We slapped each other's ears and their faces were swollen, and they kept slapping each other. It looked very scary. I can't do it, I saw them send the pig killer out yesterday. It's okay. Some people were skeptical. Mrs. Wang's mouth is well known in the courtyard. She can talk like a family begging for food when a bastard lays eggs. If she says something from her mouth, she can only believe 3 out of 10 words. Aunt Wang clicked and was very dissatisfied with being suspected of lying. What I saw with my own eyes can still be false. If you don't believe me, let's go and see together, she said as soon as they said it. They happened to be very curious about the biological daughter of the Zhou family who had recently returned. Led by Aunt Wang, a group of people walked up the stairs in a grand manner. The Zhou family will arrive soon. To prove that she didn't lie, Aunt Wang straightened her waist and prepared to push the door, but the door was opened from the inside first. A beautiful face resembling a pictorial appeared, and their eyes lit up upon seeing them. Auntie, you came just in time. My family had a fight and we were all bleeding. Now we're all on the ground. Qu Qingyao shook his hands and pointed back, looking panicked. At least 80 points can be given for acting skills. Everyone looked in the direction of her fingers and took a deep breath. Mrs. Zhou and the Zhou family were all lying on the ground, their faces swollen like pig heads, their clothes still stained with blood, and it was unclear whether they were dead or alive. "It's really lively now." Aunt Wang was the first to react and exclaimed, "What are you still waiting for? Hurry up and take your hand to the hospital." Everyone suddenly realized and carried the 3 members of the Zhou family downstairs with all their hands and feet. Although the Zhou family is not well received in the family courtyard, no one cares about them at such times. After all, saving lives is crucial. Qu Qingyao hung his head and followed behind, looking completely frightened and pitiful. Aunt Wang's heart softened when she saw it. She watched through the door as the Zhou family went crazy and was scared, not to mention a little girl trapped inside. She must have been scared. Softly comforting all the way, someone curious to see Qu Qingyao was also stared back by Aunt Wang with her eyes bulging. "Take a look, what are you looking at? Eating melons also requires virtue. What kind of fright does a little girl look like? Is it gossip time?" In a flurry, they rushed to the hospital, where 3 people were rushed over with blood spurts, startling the doctors. They quickly pushed them in for a check-up. The nurse asked how the person was injured outside. After all, these few people seem to be quite seriously injured. If it is caused by bad elements, they must report to the public security immediately to avoid more people being injured. No, it's not. When it came to her professional knowledge, Aunt Wang immediately jumped out and vividly recounted how she saw the Zhou family getting mad and fighting against each other. She spoke with great infectiousness, and the nurse carefully avoided the saliva attack, saying she knew. What kind of madness is it to make such a scene that it's about to cause death? The nurse muttered to herself, but it has nothing to do with her. By the way, remember to pay the medical expenses. The patients are currently in a coma and may need to be hospitalized for observation in the future. The meaning of this is that more money needs to be prepared. The hospital also scared some shameless people. After being cured, they cried and screamed loudly, saying that they didn't want any money. If they were to make him anxious, they would hang him with a waist belt at the hospital entrance, causing the hospital to not pay and dare not seek medical treatment now. When it came to paying the money, everyone hurriedly let Qu Qingyao out. The nurse glanced up and down at her. She didn't look like she had no money, so she felt relieved about dim sum. "Excuse me, doctor. I'll go back and get the money in a moment." Qu Qingyao responded with a good daughter-like expression. Don't cheap parents like to cry about poverty? When they wake up, they will know what surprise means. Everyone had a lot of things to do at home, and they didn't stay long before going back. On the way back, their mouths were not idle, and after discussing why the Zhou family suddenly fell insane without any results, the topic shifted to Qu Qingyao. "What's that girl's name, Qu Qingyao? The daughter of the old Zhou family, why isn't she surnamed Qu instead of Zhou? I guess I was holding someone wrong. When this daughter comes back, the Zhou family's son, Jizong, has never appeared in our courtyard." "That's true, but the daughter of the Zhou family doesn't look much like them, that's called good-looking. Qu Qingyao, who returned to the family building from the hospital, looked in the mirror and felt that he was not like the Zhou family. The original owner looked very similar to her, with an oval face, affectionate eyes, delicate skin that could pinch water, and a stunning appearance. The biggest difference is that Qu Qingyao used to be just over 1.6 meters tall, but now he is estimated to be at least 167 meters tall. Thin waist and long legs, perfect. It's not an exaggeration to say that the ugly Japanese melon in the Zhou family's whole house can produce such a miracle. Qu Qingyao pursed his lips and pushed the door into the cheap parents' room. In addition to Zhou Deshang and his wife, old Lady Zhou also made a bed to sleep in this room. The family's relationship is quite good, and my mother and son and daughter.In-law sleep in the same room without even pulling a curtain. Everywhere is in a mess, worse than a pig's nest, with a faint odor. In recent years, most households do not have independent bathrooms. It is convenient to carry a urine bucket into the house at night, and the next morning when you pour it out, there is a smell in the room, probably due to the urine bucket not being thoroughly cleaned. Qu Qingyao pinched his nose and began to dig the sky and the ground. Chapter 4. Scratching money, space appears. You are listening at novel full.audio. No matter how loud her voice is now, no one will doubt it. After all, everyone knows that the Zhou family has been admitted to the hospital, and she is just a little pitiful person who has been frightened and needs to pay hospitalization fees for her family. People nowadays are very good at hiding things. Where can they find the money hidden by the Zhou family without flipping through boxes and cabinets? The quilts on the bed were all lumped up, and the pillows had a yellow and moldy smell. Although it was unlikely, Qu Qingyao checked them again to confirm that he had no money before throwing them to the ground. The bare bedboard was lifted up one by Qu Qingyao for inspection, and the wardrobe was rummaged through, only to find the pitiful 3.37 cents and some receipts. It shouldn't be, just because all three members of the Zhou family have jobs, it's impossible for the family to have no money. Can it be that the Zhou family didn't hide the money in their own house? This room is a bit big, except for the living room and Qu Qingyao's room. How could the Zhou family not put money under their noses? It's definitely somewhere in this room. Qu Qingyao walked and looked inside the room, relying on his strength to pull out the wardrobe with one hand. Finally, he found a hole dug out on the wooden board on the back. This wardrobe is very heavy, and ordinary people need at least 2 people to work together to move it. When Zhou Deshang and his team hid their money here, they relied on their location to hide it, so thieves could not be detected. Who has become a strength monster back from home? There was a cloth bag in the hole, and Qu Qingyao took it out and opened it. Inside was the neatly placed Great Unity. There are a total of 180 sheets. Taking a closer look at the ragged wardrobe with no good clothes, it must be said that the Zhou family really acted the whole set. She is reluctant to spend money and cries about poverty outside all day long. Now these are all cheap for her. Qu Qingyao collected the cloth bag and moved the wardrobe back in its original state. The cabinet legs were placed perfectly in the center of the previously accumulated dust, as if no one had ever moved them. Obviously, these money belonged to Zhou Deshang and his wife, and Zhou Laotai's money must not have been with them. After all, the older people are, the more they value money, and having money makes them feel confident. Qu Qingyao continued to search the room carefully, and finally found the private room hidden by Mrs. Zhou in the gap between the window top and the wall. The money was placed very deep, and only when I reached out with my fingers did I find it. 10 large rolls were rolled together, wrapped in cloth and stuffed into the crevices. They were squeezed flat, making a total of 4 rolls. Unite these few volumes and put them away. Qu Qingyao stepped on the chair and looked into the crevice. What if there is still a fish in the net? I didn't see the money, but I found something inside that was wrapped in a cloth bag, pushing the fabric up in a bulge. What can be hidden here is definitely a good thing. Qu Qingyao used a tool to hook out the cloth bag and saw that there was actually a warm and moist jade ring inside. No matter how it looks, it doesn't seem like something vulgar about old Lady Zhou. In the novel, it is written that crossing time requires a golden finger. Qu Qingyao searched for all the moles on his body, but found nothing. With a try-and-see attitude, she poked her finger with a needle and squeezed out a drop of blood on the jade ring. After waiting for a while, nothing happened. How come it's her turn and she doesn't have the time travel standard? Just as Qu Qingyao thought that the heavenly way wanted her to rely on herself, he saw a faint white light emanating from the jade ring. The scene before him changed, and Qu Qingyao entered a space. The novel really has something. In the center of the space is an extremely modern asphalt road, with fertile fields on both sides. The fish pond is about 100 square meters, and a row of wooden sheds for livestock are set up next to it. Not far away, there are several large warehouses for storing things. Good news. The facilities are complete. Bad news. Zero supplies. Just as a row of question marks appeared on Qu Qingyao's head, something slid over the asphalt road with a gurgling sound. A metal shell with a round head and a round brain, resembling a robot in a bank that would argue with people. The metal shell flashed like an eye, and a few words popped up on the screen. You said, "Prince, please serve." After waiting for a long time without seeing Qu Qingyao speak, the popularity of the small machine quickly declined, and a few words flashed on the screen again. "Please use coins. Those who want gold. Do you still have such advanced spatial artifacts?" Qu Qingyao has truly gained insight. Duangduang threw Zhou Laotai's broken golden teeth at the little robot a few times, and Qu Qingyao patted its head and said, "All right. I was a bit disgusted before, but fortunately she put away these golden teeth. Okay master, number 001 is now serving you. Can you speak? Then why didn't you say it just now? There were so many words on the screen that I almost couldn't squeeze it. For the first time meeting, do you want to establish a cool and aloof image?" The little robot spoke without any delay and scanned Qu Qingyao. "Master Qu Qingyao, the total balance of the bank card is 30,115,403.16 yuan, which can be used for shopping. The shopping permission can only be opened once. Please choose whether to enable it. There's no one left, money can still be used." Qu Qingyao was overjoyed and couldn't control the excitement on his face. Her lottery, her savings, they haven't gone bankrupt. "Master, are you going to start shopping now?" The screen displayed the two eyes of the little robot, blinking very vividly. "Gold, several pieces of gold, the owner is so generous with it." "Wait a minute, 001, I still have 43,200 yuan in my provident fund. It's all her hard-earned money, not a penny less." 001. "Then I'll sweep again." After successfully adding over 40,000, Qu Qingyao was satisfied and said, 001, you can now enable shopping permissions. "Good master." As soon as the words fell, a light blue projection screen appeared in mid-air, with a clear and concise homepage arranged vertically. There are very detailed sub-branches under the shopping category, with her available balance displayed in the upper right corner and a search box at the top. Qu Qingyao can simply click and swipe with her mind. "Master, you can also command 001 to assist in placing orders." The little robot reminds you thoughtfully. Qu Qingyao nodded at 001's metal head, feeling that he could. She finally had the opportunity to shop freely and buy whatever she wanted. Let her come. Since it is a planting space, the first choice must be various types of seeds and seedlings. Qu Qingyao is preparing to divide the spatial land into several blocks, including food crops, economic crops, vegetables, and fruits. 001, do the crops grown from these seeds all conform to this era? If modern improved rice is grown, it will be caught and interrogated as soon as it is taken out. Master, rest assured that there is no difference except for the yield. Upon hearing 001 say so, Qu Qingyao felt relieved. Buy 5 tons of rice seeds, 2 tons of wheat seeds each, 1 ton of corn and sorghum seeds each, and 1,000 kilograms of other potato and legume seeds each. I bought 5 tons of economic crop cotton, sugarcane can be kept for future development, and 1,000 sprouts. I bought cabbage, tomatoes, carrots, cucumbers, chili peppers, etc. for the vegetable seedlings, and each brought 2,000 plants. Generally, only I could use onions, ginger, garlic, Sichuan peppers, and fragrant leaves, and the seedlings were only prepared with enough to eat. The variety of fruits in this era is not very abundant, and the most common ones are apples and pears. Qu Qingyao prepared to have a variety of these too, buying 2,000 each, 1,000 watermelons, 500 grapevines, and 500 pomelo and orange trees. Shanju, blueberries, dragon fruit, and durian are definitely not going to be taken out. She can't eat much alone, so she only bought 5 trees each. Chapter 5. Purchasing Power of 30 Million. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. 001 is the space warehouse locked for freshness. Qu Qingyao confirmed once. If it weren't for this feature, you could have planted all the seeds and fruit trees you bought, and the fish pond would be over 100 square meters, with a maximum of 80 to 100 fish fry placed at a time. You wouldn't dare to buy more. Okay, my master. The location and time of the warehouse are static. As long as it's something that has been received, there won't be any changes in its entry and retrieval status. My master can confidently shop with confidence. The space is very powerful, and crop planting, harvesting, processing, livestock feeding, and slaughtering can all be completed independently without the need for the owner's hands. Upon hearing these words, Qu Qingyao was completely relieved. Piggy bought 200 heads, lambs bought 100 heads, calves bought 100 heads, chickens, ducks, and geese bought 500 heads, various types of fish fry bought 200 pieces each, bullfrogs and turtles bought 1,000 pieces each, shrimp fry weighed 200 pounds, crayfish have strong adaptability to the environment and can reproduce, bought 100 pounds. Master, there is also a seafood farm near the fish pond. Reminder 001. Qu Qingyao immediately ordered seafood products, buying a lot of abalone, squid, sea cucumber, emperor crab, and more. There was no place to live in the space, so Qu Qingyao clicked on the search bar and entered the housing, and surprisingly, there was one. Make a decisive decision to buy a fully furnished small villa with a solar generator and natural gas arrangement. Immediately after finishing the rice, flour, oil, sugar, salt, soy sauce, vinegar, hot pot seasoning, and various snacks that could be used, Qu Qingyao bought sanitary pads, toilet paper, various toiletries, cosmetics and skincare products that she used to dare not buy, all of which were enough for her to use for 100 years. The balance in the upper right corner fell down with a swish, and all the purchased items were orderly and temporarily stored in the warehouse by 001. Qu Qingyao lay on the villa sofa and continued to spend money. Medicine is definitely indispensable. Qu Qingyao bought all kinds of anti-inflammatory and analgesic drugs, blood-activating and stasis-removing ointments, as well as medicines for treating colds, headaches, roundworms, and mosquitoes. Be prepared, who knows when you will use it. 001 looked eagerly, his 2 electronic eyes full of regret. Gold, it likes gold, why is there still no gold to sell? A must-have electric donkey for travel. In this era, Qu Qingyao also stocked up a lot of trendy items such as colander, twill fabric, malt extract, big white rabbit, big red peony bedding, ceramic pots, and old-fashioned sewing machines. A wave of wild consumption came, and soon there was not much left in the balance. Master, don't forget the information. 001 muttered around Qu Qingyao, afraid she might miss out on various information. The scan shows that the host was a highly educated video blogger before, and these things are definitely useful in her hands. Don't worry, I won't forget. Qu Qingyao has seen it a long time ago, and the remaining money can just buy various production and research and development materials. Let's end our shopping here. The shopping function has been turned off. If you have any other needs, please instruct 001. At the moment when the balance returned to 0, the screen projection disappeared, and 001's cute mechanical sound began. If you have anything you want to know, you can also ask 001, Master. Qu Qingyao. 001 is the space open to anyone who has dropped blood. It's written like this in novels, and she's quite curious if this probability is 100%. Anyway, she tied up the space with just 1 drop. Not that kind of owner. 001's electronic eye suddenly turned into 2 large X's. I don't know about other spaces, but 001 can only be opened by specific people. However, because every time the owner passes away, it will be reset until the next owner arrives, so 001 himself is not very clear about what specific traits these specific people should have. The little robot is a bit frustrated. I don't remember 001. It's okay, it doesn't matter if you don't remember, Qu Qingyao touched the smooth head of the little robot. Is it difficult for her to be a chosen person under specific conditions? 001 was extremely hard-working, and without the need for Qu Qingyao's explanation, he began to work hard and bustle. Planting trees and feeding cows and sheep are all things. Qu Qingyao put all the money he had scraped from the Zhou family into the spatial villa, and then went to his own room to dig out a dowry box from the pile of clothes in the wardrobe. There is a lock hole on the inside of the dowry box, which can be opened with a key, and then a wooden board is pulled out to form a hidden compartment. The money bag inside the dark box was hidden by the original owner, containing a full 1,000 yuan and many receipts, all of which were given by the Chu family's parents when the original owner returned home. At that time, the foster mother looked guilty. Yao Yao, hold these things and hide them yourself, don't let anyone else know. You can take all your belongings with you at home, and you can tell us anything you want. Don't blame Mom for being cruel. When she sees you, she always thinks of those things. Mom's heart is really unbearable. Qu Qingyao can understand. May I ask which parents in the world can still raise their enemy's daughter without any resentment after knowing that their children have been deliberately swapped? The Chu family is already good enough to care about love. Putting this 1,000 yuan into the space, Qu Qingyao went out to the hospital, carrying only the first 3 yuan and 30.7 cents he found. 3 people need to be hospitalized for treatment, and this money is not enough to see them. At the payment office, it was indeed not enough. Girl, this money is not enough. The medical expenses are still quite short, said the paid nurse directly. She has been working in the hospital for so many years and has never seen anything before. She will definitely have to complain about why your hospital is so expensive and grabbing money in the next second. If someone wants money but doesn't want to die, they will drag the patient away without treatment. She just murmured inwardly and understood that everyone's life is not easy now, and sometimes it is really helpless. Qu Qingyao handed the money over and said, "Pay this money first, I'll definitely find a way to handle the rest." Okay, hurry up and don't delay the treatment. After receiving the money, the nurse handed over the receipt, thinking to herself that this girl is someone who can handle it clearly. Money can be earned again, but there is only one life. How can money be valued more than life? Okay, I know. With a response, Qu Qingyao collected the receipt and walked towards the doctor's office. When he came out again, he held a handwritten treatment certificate in his hand, which read: "This is to certify that patients Zhou Deshang, Luo Qiuxiao, and Zhang Chunmei need to be hospitalized in our hospital due to serious injuries." In the lower right corner, there is also the signature of the attending doctor and the hospital seal. With this thing, it's much easier for her to do what she wants to do. I originally wanted to strike while the iron was hot to resolve the matter, but unfortunately I didn't have lunch. It's already 3 p.m. and my stomach is protesting. Goo goo. There was an undeniable sound coming from the abdominal cavity, and Qu Qingyao turned around and found an empty place to enter the space. The kitchen refrigerator was already filled with 001, and Qu Qingyao took out the hot pot base and ingredients to make a spicy and fragrant pot with meat and vegetables. A bite of shrimp, a bite of vegetables, and a chopstick of cilantro. And the instant noodles in the fragrant pot are simply eternal gods. Chapter 6. Preparation for selling work. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fill the 5 dirty temples, put the dirty dishes and chopsticks into the dishwasher, and it looks like it's already past 4 o'clock. What Qu Qingyao is preparing to do is to sell all the cheap jobs of his parents and grandmother. This family is changing children and forcing them to get married, leaving them with nothing is the price that black-hearted people should pay. I don't have enough time to finish work, so let's go to the factory early tomorrow. I'll just finish everything in one go. If the work is sold, it will be sold. As long as the money and goods are received, the Zhou family will not be able to make a name for themselves no matter how much trouble they cause. How precious a job spot is now, a fool only spits out what he eats. Qu Qingyao returned to the family building and was stopped as soon as he entered the courtyard. Neighbor aunties saw her and came over to ask Zhou Desheng how they were doing. "Miss Zhou, have your parents and grandmother woken up yet? 3 people treating the illness require a lot of money, haven't they? Have you flipped through your family's money?" Qu Qingyao pursed his lips with a worried expression and said, "I found over 3 yuan in total and paid it all. The hospital says it's still far from enough. Can't we just find 3 pieces? I can't do it. I haven't even searched under the boxes, cabinets, and bedding. I need to take a closer look at the pants seams and the feet of my old shoes. Can a hospital treat it without money? What should we do?" Qu Qingyao shook his head and said, "The hospital asked me to come back and raise money. If I can't pay it tomorrow, I won't be treated." As soon as they heard that they wanted to raise money, everyone stopped talking and tacitly retreated, afraid of hearing something difficult in the next second. "Oh, it's not too early to cook dinner. Miss Zhou, hurry back and get some food. You have to take care of the patient, so you can't fall down first." Right, go back quickly." The crowd dispersed in a flurry, and Qu Qingyao returned to the room with 2 clean ears. If anyone touches their lips and cares, they will say that if they want to borrow money, there are no more than 11,000. It's not that these neighbors are not bad. If it were for the well-connected households, there would be people to help out when something happens without asking for help. However, the Zhou family is known for being stingy and calculating in the courtyard, and no one wants to be involved with them. Borrowing money, dreaming. Qu Qingyao was delighted to see this scene. Despite the chaos in the room, she didn't tidy up and went back to her own room to put most of her clothes and shoes into the space. Just leave a few things that are almost invisible outside. After half a day of effort, 001 has already cultivated all the grain seeds and is waiting for them to sprout before planting. Apple, pear and other fruit trees were planted in the soil, and grapevines were also put on shelves, filling more than 10 acres of land in one fell swoop. Little robots are really capable. At this moment, the capable little robot is planting sugarcane. It doesn't need to be done by hand. Make up the mud, manipulate the intention to bury the sugarcane sprouts upwards, control the distance between the plants to about 20 centimeters, and then cover with a thin film to wait for germination. The growth rate of plants in the space is several times faster than outside, and if sugarcane is planted, it can be eaten in at most 2 months. 001 Goyalu was busy spinning around, and Qu Qingyao had a sudden idea. He went to the tool room to find a few wooden boards and sawed them into evenly sized cloud-shaped wooden plaques. 001 curiously rubbed over, and Qu Qingyao asked it to find a file, then started carving on the wooden plaque. 001 looked at it, and the electronic eyes turned into exaggerated 2O. The master is really amazing. He can even carve things on wood without a pen. Soon, a wooden plaque with the names of crops such as rice, sugarcane, and wheat was made, with simple strokes on the edge. Qu Qingyao sprayed hair glue on the character, then slightly carbonized the brand with a spray gun and inserted it into the corresponding ground. Take a left and right look, well, it's quite good, with a rustic and elegant taste. Compared to her disheveled face when she studied agriculture as a minor in college, now this kind of whimsical play is enough to enjoy the rural scenery. I have to personally try planting dozens of acres of land, one by one without making a sound. After finishing his labor, Qu Qingyao had a simple dinner and ran for a while. I took a comfortable bath in the bathtub and fell asleep on the soft bed. 001, who doesn't need much rest, is curiously rumbling on the asphalt road, taking a closer look at each wooden sign, with the electronic eye repeatedly jumping horizontally between O and square root. The master is really amazing. The next day, Qu Qingyao woke up early. Although it's a bit boring without electronic products, there are also benefits. She hasn't slept so well in a long time. Wake up from sleep and feel refreshed. After eating some bread and drinking a glass of milk, Qu Qingyao went out. The neighbor's aunt saw her go out and thought she was struggling with medical expenses, so she planned to find her married sister to find a solution. The daughters of the Zhou family who got married, the eldest and third, married far away from the province, and the second, dressed in red clothes, were all given to a rural person. These three are far apart and cannot come back for a long time. Old 4 and Old 5 got married closer, in the city. One was a stepwife to a lame widower who couldn't give birth, and the other married a drooling fool. These two had to bring things back once a month, otherwise old Lady Zhou would go home and cause trouble. Even Lu Yaomei, who prioritizes men over women's volleyball in the courtyard, looks down on the Zhou family. Just as everyone was speculating, Qu Qingyao had already knocked on the door of the office of the director of the Labor and Capital Department at the furniture factory. The door is not closed, enter. There was a response inside, and as she pushed the door in, Chen Jiafen was taken aback when she saw the visitor. Zhou Deshang's little daughter, who has just returned. She heard about the hospitalization of the Zhou family. Is this trip to advance her salary? Sit down, Chen Jiafen pointed to the stool and said with a smile on her face. I heard that Master Zhou has been admitted to the hospital. How are you? Are you okay? Master Zhou is an old employee in the factory. If something happens, everyone will remember it in their hearts. When they are not so busy, they will definitely go to visit the factory as soon as possible. Qu Qingyao couldn't hear the perfunctory words in his words. If you really care, you won't just talk about it, but go to the hospital as soon as possible and ask if there are any difficulties. Qu Qingyao didn't hesitate to sit down and open the door to see the mountain path. Thank you, Director Chen, for your concern. I came here to sell my father's job. Selling jobs. Chen Jiafen's heart suddenly became lively. My son is already of marriageable age and has fallen in love with the daughter of a young leader in the Power Bureau. At the point of discussing marriage, he doesn't want any dowry or anything, and instead wants a formal job position. The family is worried about it. Chen Jiafen pretended to wave her hand. Zhou's daughter, if there are really difficulties at home, it's not necessary for the factory to pay a month's salary first, so there's no need to sell jobs. No matter how much she thinks in her heart, she still has a brain. Is it possible to sell work without my presence? When Zhou Deshang starts making a fuss, just holding on to his own lack of signature can make him mute and eat Huanglian. Of course, Qu Qingyao knew this and prepared early. She took out the payment receipt and treatment certificate. Director Chen, I know the factory definitely wants to help us solve the difficulties, but we can't add trouble to the factory either. My family is still unconscious now, and I don't know when I can wake up. It may take a long recovery period, so I'm replacing my father to sell work. The hospital certificates are all here, and I will bear all the responsibility. Chapter 7. Sell it all. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The words were spoken beautifully and the preparations were done perfectly. In this way, although it is not in accordance with the rules, it is very reasonable to sell on behalf of others. Chen Jiafen only took a few serious glances at Qu Qingyao, but he was somewhat impressed. The newly returned daughter of the Zhou family is a thoughtful person. Although it is still unclear about Zhou Deshang and his team's situation, no matter what, it is not enough to sell jobs. Without causing trouble to the factory, Zhou Deshang has been working for years and has caused less trouble. Stealing and deceiving, bullying new employees, and receiving several reports in the factory. I heard that the couple was squeezing their daughters to the extreme. When something happened, the girl came to the factory not to advance her salary, but instead to sell her job, which was deliberate. It's up to her to use the money once it's in her hands. However, Chen Jiafen not only does not dislike it, but also quite appreciates it. Encountering such parents, if you don't think for yourself, who do you expect to make decisions for? Oh, you girl, your ideological consciousness is too high, I feel inferior. Since that's the case, I won't advise much. In this way, I won't have to rely on others' hands to buy this job. Our factory's workshop work quota has been set outside for 800 days. I will pay 900 yuan and provide some grain tickets. If you think it's suitable, we can proceed with the procedures now. The work in the workshop is definitely not suitable for my daughter.In.Law, but after working in the factory for so many years, she still has connections. It won't be difficult for her to switch to an office job when the time comes. Qin Jiafen gestured to the desktop. These 2 certificates need to be handed over to me, and when signing for confirmation, it should also be clearly stated that you will sign on behalf of me. Is that okay? Since I dare to come, I didn't intend to shift the responsibility onto others. The price is reasonable, Qu Qingyao nodded and said. Sure, but I still need these 2 things. Please prepare the money and ticket first. I will come back this afternoon. After the matter was settled, Qu Qingyao walked out with something in hand. Director Chen's husband came over to deliver breakfast after finishing his night shift, and Qin Jiafen told him about it. While feeling happy, she also sighed. People like Zhou Desheng have given birth to a daughter who is full of teeth. The 3 people who were hospitalized in the Zhou family were all paid. You see, this girl must have taken proof and sold the other 2 jobs. With the proof attached, Qu Qingyao turned around and went to the textile factory where Luo Qiuxia worked. Although temporary jobs are not as many as regular jobs, there are also many people who want them, but the price is lower, and they can only be sold for 350 yuan. The person who bought the job was surnamed Liang, a skinny middle-aged woman who was afraid of unnecessary expenses. Without saying a word, she went home to get the money and complete the procedures. As for Zhou Laotai's temporary job of cleaning the toilet, Qu Qingyao sold it to an old lady who walked with a strong wind. The old lady's surname is Zhu, and she has been working in the countryside all her life. It's not a problem for her to be dirty or tired. Others don't mind me, I've never seen anything in the countryside. Pig manure and cow manure are all good things for composting, while human manure can be sold for money. Fecal ticket, source network, intrusion and deletion, if it weren't for my old man going, I wouldn't have come to the city to drag on my son and daughter.In.Law. I just have to cook, tidy up the house all day, and I feel exhausted. It's great now. Get a job and earn a monthly salary. I'll also be someone with a job and chat in the countryside. It's really impressive. Mrs. Zhu took out the 270 yuan she had saved for her whole life, and the remaining Qu Qingyao asked her to use receipts to offset it. Oh my dear daughter, thank you so much. I happen to have a bicycle ticket there, don't you think so? Yes, why not? Nowadays, it is popular to make 3 turns and 1 sound. If you want to buy something, you can earn money, but receipts are not so easy to handle. Sure, you can make the decision. Being able to make decisions, Mrs. Zhu boasted, my son bought a bicycle, and this ticket was issued by my daughter.In.Law's factory. As we live nearby and don't need it, it was given to me. She said whether to buy a bicycle for me to ride or for my daughter, I will handle it myself. It looks like a very harmonious family. Qu Qingyao chatted with the talkative old Lady Zhou for a few words, collected the money and bicycle ticket, and then left. Mrs. Zhu is also feeling happy in her heart. If other rural old ladies think it's better to keep money for retirement. But her son is a worker. As a mother who can cultivate a worker's son, would her vision be so short-sighted? That cannot be specified. Although this job cost over 200 yuan, I am in good health and can work for 10 or 8 years without any problem. I earn a salary of over 10 yuan per month, and I can make it back to my original income in 2 or 3 years. It's worth it. Although both sons and daughters-in-law have jobs, there are 5 grandchildren in the family, and the life of the daughter's family is not easy. Taking advantage of her ability to move now, she can also help in the future. As parents, this life is not just about children. On this side, Qu Qingyao, who had been running around all morning, was starving and groaning. She wasn't planning to cook for herself anymore, so she found a state-owned restaurant to eat ready-made food. The waiters in the restaurant have a good or bad attitude. Whenever someone comes, they just glance at the table and look at the supplies on the cardboard for those who want to order. The few words on the side that prohibit hitting customers without reason are so red that they stand out. An iron rice bowl is like a cow. Qu Qingyao ordered a beef chow fun, together with a lard fried vegetables, which cost a total of 42 cents, plus 2 liang food stamps and 2 liang meat stamps. The master's cooking skills are indeed good, with a large quantity and sincere use of ingredients. The stir-fried beef river is full of beef, with just the right combination of oil and heat. It is smooth, but not greasy at all. Stir-fried vegetables with lard can also taste a sweet and refreshing taste. This state-owned restaurant can come and check in from time to time in the future. Just as Qu Qingyao was thinking this, he saw the waiter who didn't like to deal with people arguing with them for a few words. He turned his head and shouted to the back, "Master Lu, hurry up." A burst of impatient footsteps came, with a clear sense of shock. The chef, who is 1.8 meters tall and weighs 300 pounds, ran out of the kitchen with a large iron spoon and shouted in a rude voice. "Which one? Which bastard is urging the dishes?" The waiter pointed to the man in front of him, and the iron spoon in Master Lu's hand hit him on the head with a bang. hurry up, I'm so busy. If I have the ability, I'll stir it up myself." Most people in the store are not surprised. It seems that this is not the first time such a thing has happened. Qu Qingyao looked at the big words, "Do not beat customers without reason," then looked at the big iron spoon in the master's hand, and then looked at his remaining half of the stir-fried beef river. Let's silently cross out the possibility of frequently checking in from my mind. After finishing his meal, Qu Qingyao found an empty place and entered the space. After walking in the field for a few laps and taking a comfortable nap, I went to find Director Chen. "Miss Zhou, you're here. Come on, 900 yuan, plus 5 pounds of grain and 10 feet of cloth. You can take a look." For work reasons, Chen Jiafen didn't even have lunch and went home to bring his money and tickets. Once this matter is resolved, the family can immediately arrange for a wedding event, and next year they can have a grandson. The matter of money is indeed more transparent, and Qu Qingyao took the money and counted it. 90 big unity cards, that's right. Chapter 8. Old Lady Zhou is charged for medical expenses. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Counting at home several times, I'm afraid I might make a mistake and make a joke. Chen Jiafen joked and saw that she had counted the money clearly, saying, "We are all opened-up-minded people, so Auntie won't talk to you in a roundabout way. I have prepared the handover form. Please sign your father and your name below, and then press your fingerprint. If you have no problem, sign and leave the office. The matter will stop here, and no one is willing to bring it up in the future." Qu Qingyao signed his name, pressed his fingerprint, and placed the hospital certificate on the table without any hesitation. Chen Jiafen accepted the things and breathed a sigh of relief. Now his son's marriage can be arranged. After buying and selling the work, Qu Qingyao quickly collected the money and left. Looking for a place to enter the space, 001 is still working diligently. Qu Qingyao entered the villa and counted the money and receipts in his hands. She scraped out 2,200 yuan from the Zhou family, and sold a total of 1,520 yuan for 3 jobs. With 1,000 yuan given by the Chu family's parents, she now has a total of 4,720 yuan in her hands. Director Chen gave 5 pounds of grain tickets, 10 feet of cloth tickets, along with the ones found from the Zhou family and given by the Qu family's parents, totaling 48.5 pounds of grain tickets, 48 feet of cloth tickets, 5 pounds of meat tickets, 2 pounds of oil tickets, 16 industrial tickets, 2 pounds of sugar tickets, 8 pounds of cotton tickets, and 1 bicycle ticket. Oh, a safe money ticket for the rich. That is to say, the current house is owned by the public and cannot be sold, otherwise we can still earn a profit. Qu Qingyao felt a little regretful in his heart, but thinking of the expression on his parents' faces when they woke up and found nothing left, he covered his eyes and couldn't help but let out laughter from his mouth. Classify the money and receipts, and Qu Qingyao is ready to stay in the space for 2 days before going out. At that time, someone in the Zhou family should have woken up, and she was waiting for her parents to shake up the pig slayer and cause trouble. When advocating for freedom of marriage, I dared to sell my daughter and take care of her, which happened to send them all in. The sun rose and set, and soon 2 days passed. When Qu Qingyao was lost in thought in the space, in the hospital, the mildest injured old Lady Zhou woke up first. The nurse's face turned green and she said, "Wake up. Wake up and see if you know where this is." Mrs. Zhou looked around as if everything was white, and she was also puzzled. How did I get to the hospital? She remembers that her family was discussing marrying the dead girl surnamed Chu to a pig killer, and then what happened? Mrs. Zhou's tongue twirled in her mouth, and when she touched the hole, she remembered. Then I was beaten up by that dead girl and had to fan each other out. When I remember, my face hurts, my mouth hurts, and my teeth are blowing open. The Shang and Qiuxia were beaten down by her 2 sticks, but she herself was knocked unconscious by the little white-eyed wolf from behind. Old Lady Zhou opened her mouth and wanted to scold the little beast. The nurse scolded her so much and let out a loud shout. Just know it's a hospital, but if you know it's not agile enough, you can get up without breaking your leg. I owe a lot of debt. Hurry up, take the money and pay the fees. I won't care if you die or live, I'll kick you all out. Before driving out, you can sell blood and clothes as you please. Anyway, you need to pay off the money you owe. I scolded old Lady Zhou for being weak. Opening his mouth, he saw his son lying in the hospital bed next to him, still awake. He temporarily closed his mouth. Mrs. Zhou really has money on her body, and all the household expenses are spent on her. So a pocket on the top of the pants and stuff it inside, except for a slight odor, not afraid of stealing. Old Lady Zhou reluctantly asked, saying that it was a total of 1630.8 yuan for 3 people's medical expenses plus hospitalization expenses. So expensive, why don't you guys grab the money? The nurse rolled her eyes and sneered, your family said they would use the best medicine for you. Now that it's medicinal, I don't want to admit it. Alright, then I'll just report it to the police and see what they say. Unable to do anything, Mrs. Zhou had to dig into her pants and painfully hand in the 16 yuan first. The hospital still needs to live, it's not enough. The nurse glanced at Mrs. Zhou, who knew if she might run away again. Under the eaves, old Lady Zhou shouted a few more words about robbing money. She walked over and slapped Luo Qiuxia, who was still unconscious, and opened her eyes in a daze. Both of us are fine now, there's no need to be hospitalized and take medicine. Just treat my son alone. The nurse was taken aback by this strange operation, took the last bit of money from Mrs. Zhou's pants, and asked them to quickly go and complete the discharge procedures before leaving. The last penny on her body was scraped clean, and old Lady Zhou was so angry that she sat on the bed and cursed Qu Qingyao as a commoner. She spat at Luo Qiuxia, who had been awakened by the fan, and said, "You useless thing. What kind of things are all born in your belly? Why didn't you die together during pregnancy, so that I wouldn't have to suffer from this at an old age?" Finally pounding my heart and howling up to the sky. My stepfather is such a well-behaved child. He knew how to wash my feet with water when he was young. He finally raised him so much and gave it to someone else. How could our old Zhou family suffer so much? After being scolded, Luo Qiuxia felt angry and cursed Qu Qingyao and the Qu family in her heart. In her opinion, everything about dragons and phoenixes is nonsense, and how to raise them is the key. Take a look at the successor she raised, and then take a look at the Qu Qingyao raised by the Qu family. It's like heaven and earth. Raising children to the point where they dare to beat their elders and still have the face to compensate is not a false accusation. Luo Qiuxia thought for a moment. Qu Qingyao was full of strange strength. When he replaced the child, the Qu family remained silent. That was intentional. If they are mentally prepared, can they end up in the hospital? The more she thought about it, the more she felt that she was right. When Luo Qiuxia spoke to Mrs. Zhou, she cursed loudly. I knew the family surnamed Qu had malicious intentions. They were all rotten lungs and rotten hearts. If you dare to ask us to compensate, I'll compensate his grandmother's leg. She pointed at Luo Qiuxia and said. You go find a pig killer and say that the bride is disobedient. Ask him to come and help take the person away. I don't believe it anymore. I can't even cure a girl's problem. I'll go call the fourth and fifth, and once we've sent the dead girl, let's go to the Qu family together to argue. The mother.In.Law and daughter.In.Law endured the pain and limped out of the hospital in 2 separate routes. Luo Qiuxia knocked on the door of the pig slayer's house, but no one opened it for a long time. The neighbor next door poked his head out and said, the pig killer left yesterday. Do you have anything to do with him? Are you out? Luo Qiuxia was stunned. She had originally planned to marry her daughter at the dowry tonight, but why did she leave? At this time, the pig killer is helping people kill pigs in the suburbs. It wasn't his turn to handle this matter, it was his own initiative. Because he was getting married, he made a special trip to the furniture factory's family home yesterday, thinking of taking a look at his new wife before marriage and saying a few words to cultivate relationships. Unexpectedly, someone said that the Zhou family of 3 was hospitalized. The pig killer thought to himself that this marriage would have to wait until the Zhou family was discharged from the hospital before getting married. How about a new son.In.Law who will have to pay for medical expenses? Isn't this a real culprit who runs away overnight? Luo Qiuxia couldn't find the pig killer on this side, and old Lady Zhou, who had returned home first, let out a sharp explosion. Chapter 9. Critical Strike Triple Company. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Since waking up, old Lady Zhou's heart has been in a state of turmoil, always feeling uneasy. When she watched the old man with a stroke throw his face into the basin and drown alive, she never felt so nervous. I'm not sure if it's Qu Qingyao's deceitful girl who's causing trouble. Hurry home and take a look. Another thing is that this time she was hospitalized, she was really hurting her muscles and bones. She had to go back to get some money and sneak into a state-owned restaurant to eat some good food to make up for herself. Who knew this sight would scare her out of her heart disease? The room was in a mess, with all the blankets lying on the ground in her room. Mrs. Zhou's heart pounded, and she quickly put on a chair and felt through the window crack. The more you touch, the more your hands and feet tremble. It's empty, there's nothing else. Little bitch, dirty little bitch. Old Lady Zhou was so angry that she trembled all over and sucked in her front teeth. With her salary and the filial piety she has sought from her granddaughters over the years, she has all the savings she has saved in her life hidden under the window crack. At this moment, Luo Qiuxia, who had not found the pig killer, also returned. If you haven't found it, then you haven't found it. Dealing with Qu Qingyao, that dead girl, is not a big deal. I have suffered a great loss in my health, so I will use the money to make up for it. So, the mother.In.Law and daughter.In.Law, who had only been separated in the hospital for a short time, met again at home. Mom, what's going on? There's a thief inside the house. Watching the room full of chaos, Luo Qiuxia was stunned. Old Lady Zhou had a stern face and remained silent. Luo Qiuxia quickly flipped through the pages, leaving no change or receipts. Startled in her heart and unable to care about anything else, Luo Qiuxia hurriedly said. "Mom, could you help me move my wardrobe out?" The mother.In.law and daughter.In.law put in a lot of effort to move the wardrobe out, and looking at the empty hole, Luo Qiuxia screamed. "Money, my money! Being robbed, this is really being robbed. Even if something from Dog Day is stolen from our house, we are not afraid that it will not be able to withstand the weight of our blessings. Call your mother dead, call your father dead, bury your breasts in the soil and encounter a weasel. Thunder will strike and kill your whole family." Luo Qiuxia's face turned red with scolding, and when she looked up again, she saw her own wife staring at her and rushing out. Mrs. Zhou went downstairs in a few seconds, and when she saw someone pulling at her collar, she asked. "Where is the little animal? Have you seen the little animal? Damn you little bitch, where did you hide? Let me find it and chop off your hands. Who saw the damn little beast? Speak up." This crazy appearance scared people quite a bit. Not far away, Aunt Wang saw it and pouted at the people around her. "Look, I'm right. Are you crazy? Speaking without a clear mind, pulling at people and scaring them to death. There are people like this in the courtyard, and I'm afraid just thinking about it. I should just go straight to the mental hospital to see them off." Luo Qiuxia, who followed behind, felt extremely annoyed. This old lady herself couldn't have lost her money, she must have gone crazy. While saying good things to others, she pulled old Lady Zhou out until there was nowhere else to let go. "Mom, what are you doing? We need to report to the police quickly now, otherwise we won't be able to find the money." Luo Qiuxia felt that her mother.In.law probably had a brain problem. Mrs. Zhou took a few deep breaths and said, "Report to the police. Report to the police and they will arrest the person. Who will marry a pig killer?" "Mom, do you mean that the one who stole the money is Yao Yao? You are a little smarter than a pig. The only one who has been stolen in the entire courtyard is our family. Who else is not a thief?" At this moment, Luo Qiuxia also turned around and twitched her lips, stomping her feet and cursing loudly. This dead girl is really beating the king of hell in the middle of the night. She has lived long enough to live. Beat us up like this. Desheng is still in the hospital and dares to steal money from home. Don't let me find it. If you want me to find it, you must break her leg. Oh my head, oh. I didn't wake up for long, my body was weak, and I was running around. I was so angry that Luo Qiuxia's head was swirling and she was dizzy. Upon closer inspection, the old lady's face turned pale and she had already sat down on the ground. "Mom, the money is in the hands of the dead girl. The monk can run away but not the temple. There are ways to deal with her, don't worry. We still need to go to the hospital to take care of our bodies and have someone give a message to Old 4 and Old 5. Although they are both useless things, at least they can pay for our medical expenses. At that time, there will also be 2 supporting hands." "Okay then." The angry mother.In.law and daughter.In.law had to help each other back to the hospital. Unexpectedly, after waiting for a long time, neither Zhou Jimei nor Zhou Simei came. Mrs. Zhou sneered coldly. "They are all heartless things. Usually, they have to push things around the house 3 times and 4 times, and they insist on coming to our doorstep to be honest. Now that they know we're sick, they don't show up at all. Isn't that because they're afraid of paying? When I get married and support my parents' family, I should have them at any time. Just these few people are not like humans. It's even harder to get some money from them than to climb to the sky. Okay, when I'm done, they won't know their surname is Zhou until they make a big fuss at home. If you want your body to recover quickly, you need to treat it. If you want to treat it, you need to pay." Mrs. Zhou had no choice but to ask someone to help her go to the furniture factory in the hospital. Her intention was to invite the leaders of the factory to come, not to mention comfort, but to advance a month's salary for emergency response. As a result, the furniture factory directly brought a letter, saying that the work had been handed over by Qu Qingyao to someone else, and Zhou Deshang was no longer an employee in the factory 2 days ago. This news is like exploding thunder out of thin air. Old Lady Zhou and Luo Qiuxia both widened their eyes and couldn't believe it. Does this mean that Deshang's job was sold by Qu Qingyao? The person carrying the message saw that their faces were really ugly, so they left a sentence. I don't know when my family will recover from their illness, and I don't want to cause trouble for the factory. He quickly left. With her legs weak, Mrs. Zhou trembled her throat and quickly sent someone to the textile factory and street office. She also brought back the news that her work had been sold by Qu Qingyao. The mother.In.law and daughter.In.law in the ward couldn't recover for a long time, and for a long time, 2 angry and desperate cries echoed throughout the hospital. Little beast, Qu Qingyao, you little beast who came to collect debts. The voice was too mournful, and many children were scared and cried loudly, with complaints from parents coming and going. Oh, what about calling me? Amidst the noise, Qu Qingyao pushed open the door of the sick room, his tone very impolite. Old Lady Zhou and Luo Qiuxia saw her and wished they could just peel her skin and eat her meat. Old Lady Zhou gathered her strength and slapped her as she rushed towards her. How could Qu Qingyao let her hit her? With a nimble flash, Old Lady Zhou threw herself to the ground and fell into a dog-eating shit. Luo Qiuxia was so angry that she patted the bed. You are a heartless and ruthless person. It's better to have a piece of barbecue than to have you, I should have drowned you, fallen to death, exchanged you with the children of the Chu family, and allowed you to live a good life in someone else's house for over a decade. Is that how you repay us? Old Lady Zhou lay on the ground in so much pain that she couldn't move and cursed. Little beast, you wait. You can handle it. If you dare to hit us and even sell your job, you think we have no choice but to deal with you, right? Isn't it that you don't want to marry? I insist that you marry a pig slayer. If you dare not obey, no one will care if you die. Chapter 10. Mutual Grasping and Biting. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Old Lady Zhou really hates Qu Qingyao and her teeth itch. She has lived her whole life and has never suffered such a loss before. If she could have seen a knife fly in her eyes, now Qu Qingyao would have been stabbed to pieces. There is no one in this ward who is not afraid of being heard, so Mrs. Zhou spoke up directly. It is both a venting of anger and a threat. In her opinion, a girl who is lonely and helpless, with all her strength, is always willing to face reality when trying to show off her temporary pleasure. When she approached her, the fire in her eyes was about to burst out, and Qu Qingyao sneered and moved aside. It was only then that Old Lady Zhou saw several people standing behind the half-open door. Director Niu from the Street Women's Federation, with 2 male comrades wearing uniforms next to him. Surprisingly, even the police came. Remembering the words just now, Old Lady Zhou and Luo Qiuxia wished they could go back and slap themselves before. Mrs. Zhou reacted quickly and grabbed the iron bed legs to get up, laughing and saying. Director Niu, 2 police officers, I didn't expect that the news of the missing money at home has spread to your ears. Actually, it's just a small family matter. If we can solve it ourselves, we won't bother you. There is no tea or water in this hospital, and it's not easy to entertain. Tomorrow, we will definitely send over the brocade flag with a serious and responsible attitude. At this moment, she had already come to her senses. The Women's Federation sent someone, and it is likely that Qu Qingyao, the dead girl, went to file a lawsuit. Little girl, do you think filing an arranged marriage would really put them in jail? Naive. This move was used by Lao Wu a few years ago, and the Women's Federation can only criticize a few words at most. It won't really do anything. Who doesn't sell daughters? Who doesn't beat his wife? If the Women's Federation were to manage everything, life wouldn't be enough. However, when Lao Wu filed a complaint, someone from the Women's Federation came. Why did even the public security come this time? She pretended to be confused while trying to understand, but to her surprise, Niu Zhenhua didn't even take on this tall hat. We really don't know about money, but since it's not a family matter, we'll just follow our wishes and not get involved. I have received a real name report from Comrade Qu Qingyao, stating that you disregarded her personal wishes and wanted to engage in arranged marriage. Is there such a thing? Upon hearing her say that she didn't care about the money being stolen, Mrs. Zhou choked. She was fooling herself by speaking on her own. Luo Qiuxia gave Qu Qingyao a fierce glare, opening her mouth to try to argue. Without waiting for her to speak out, Niu Zhenhua intensified her voice and said. Just now at the door, we heard what you said. Don't think about not admitting it now, treat people like fools. Before coming, I had already inquired with my neighbors. The informant had seen you personally deliver the pig slayer and talked about dowry-related matters. The insider also said, this is not the first time your family has engaged in this arrangement, and the first few daughters were also forced to marry by you, right? I tell you, even though we advocate for freedom of marriage, if you dare to engage in this bad habit of arranging things, you will be dragged to the streets and criticized if you say something unpleasant. In this era, there is still the practice of taking care of everything. Niu Zhenhua is indeed a bit angry, but there are also elements of new officials taking on 3 rounds of fire. In the past, if the people do not appoint officials, they will not investigate. This matter should be held high and held low, and even if it is lightly exposed, it will be fine. But now it's different. She just got promoted not long ago, isn't this hitting her gun? This is a typical opportunity for such a great tree power. Mrs. Zhou's face stiffened slightly. She knew that the informant was definitely Wang de Mao, who couldn't hold feces in his intestines in the courtyard. I cursed Wang half to death in my heart, and as for being criticized, old Lady Zhou is not afraid. A flick of the mouth. Director Niu, we're trying to make peace with Yao Yao and the pig slayer. Isn't that a failure? Not long after Yao Yao's return, he got used to living a good life again. Looking for someone older can hurt people. As elders, we have been eating for a few more years and always have to plan more for our children. Do you think so? This is not just a matter of discussion, why is it brought up to arranged marriages? As for the previous ones, getting married has become a thing of the past. Do we still need to whip the corpse? Niu Zhenhua's mouth was tense as she listened. This is relying on old age to sell old age, dead pigs are not afraid of boiling water. Mrs. Zhou really thinks so. She can't just cry, make a scene, and hang herself. Can the public security still forcibly capture them? After standing for so long and getting tired of her feet, Mrs. Zhou is ready to move to the hospital bed and sit down. Unexpectedly, as soon as she moved, one of the police officers came up and held her down. Luo Qiuxia wanted to go over and help, and exclaimed in surprise, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Then another police officer also held her down. Be honest with everyone. Inexplicably held down by the police, old Lady Zhou and Luo Qiuxia were stunned when they heard Qu Qingyao speak, who had been silent since just now. You wouldn't think that I only reported you for engaging in arranged marriages, would you? The very soft voice made old Lady Zhou and Luo Qiuxia both tremble. The police have quickly handcuffed old Lady Zhou and Luo Qiuxia. Comrade Qu Qingyao reported that you intentionally exchanged her with the Chu family's child in the hospital 18 years ago. We have sent someone to visit and investigate. Please cooperate with our questioning now. As for why the question needs to be handcuffed, isn't that because the old lady was just moving around and seemed to be running away? It doesn't matter whether they really want to run, as long as they feel like they want to run, then they just want to run. Upon hearing these words, Mrs. Zhou and Luo Qiuxia's faces visibly panicked, and their hearts were about to jump to their throats. This dead girl is really capable of doing things. She wants them to die. Gong, Comrade Public Security, it's not like this. Listen to us. Luo Qiuxia's legs and stomach became weak, and she opened her mouth to speak. Her upper and lower teeth touched each other, trembling like frost. I can't say a word. She also knew in her heart that there was actually no room for her to speak. What are you saying, arguing that the child was not intentionally changed? Someone has already gone to investigate. The lie is easily exposed with just a poke. At the critical moment, it was Mrs. Zhou who was able to stabilize. Comrade Public Security, we apologize for our mistake. Previously, Pork was deceived and indeed wanted to marry Yao Yao to a pig killer for the dowry. I agree with any punishment he should receive. But the matter of changing children is indeed unjustified. Even if you want a boy again, Yao Yao is still a child of our Zhou family, and no matter what, you can't do anything about changing children. Luo Qiuxia perked up her ears, waiting to hear how her old lady defended herself. As a result, Mrs. Zhou pointed in her direction and cried. But Qiuxia is confused. At that time, the hospital caught fire, and neither Deshang nor I expected that Qiuxia would take the opportunity to do such a thing. When we found out, it was already too late. Upon hearing this, Luo Qiuxia was shocked and her eyes widened. This malicious old lady actually wants to shift the blame onto herself, thinking that she will be like before, being squeezed and flattened by others. Because she didn't give birth to a son, she has been enduring in the Zhou family for most of her life, and now she can't help it anymore. Okay, we're going to die together. Comrade Public Security, I plead guilty. The child was intentionally replaced. The Zhou family has always wanted a son, but Yao Yao gave birth to a daughter, so we don't need to discuss it. Taking advantage of the hospital fire after giving birth, my mother.In-Law and husband directly exchanged her with another child.